Hello there, welcome to this Carbon Academy tutorial on A-level biology. We'll be looking at photosynthesis. This will be covered in two parts, as there are a lot of content to cover, and understanding these complex concepts takes time. So let's get started. These are the aims of this tutorial. We will define what photosynthesis is and explain where it occurs, explain how chloroplasts are adapted for photosynthesis, what is the difference between absorption and action spectrum, and how are leaves adapted for photosynthesis. Finally, we'll look at the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. We'll cover the last 2 points in another video. Okay, let's answer what is photosynthesis. Photo refers to light, and synthesis means make. And in context of plants, essentially photosynthesis involves making sugars from light energy. Photosynthesis occurs in chloroplasts, no big surprise here, and it consists of two reactions. First is the light-dependent reaction, which occurs in the granum, and then the light-independent reaction that occurs in the stroma. The chloroplasts contain three pigments, which are chlorophyll A, B, and carotene. The important ones to know are chlorophyll A and B. Each of these pigments absorb light as photons, consisting of different wavelengths. This might have confused you, but stick with me. Let's now look at how chloroplasts are adapted for light absorption, but before that, I'm going to briefly run through what light actually is. If you do A-level physics, this might be familiar, but for those of you who don't, this information will be useful to get a thorough understanding. We say that light has wave-particle duality. That is, it behaves as a wave and a particle. Yes, it's confusing, but stick with it. A particle of light is called a photon, and it carries a specific amount of energy. When this photon moves, it moves as a wave. The greater the amount of energy a photon carries, the higher the frequency of light, and this appears blue in color. Hopefully that made sense. Now let's look into the adaptation of the chloroplast. The thylakoid membrane provides a large surface area for light absorption, and the layering of the membrane allows a lot of pigment to be contained. I just want to reiterate that the information in this slide is quite complex, so do take some time in understanding it. Alright, if you have come this far, you're doing quite well. There are two terms you should be familiar with at A level, and this is the absorption and action spectrum. The absorption spectrum is defined as all the wavelengths absorbed by the chlorophyll pigments, and the action spectrum is defined as the wavelengths of light that actually causes photosynthesis to occur. A point to note is that plants don't absorb green light. This is reflected, and hence why plants appear green to our eyes. So providing green light to plants reduces the rate of photosynthesis significantly. Okay, now let's look at how leaves are adapted for photosynthesis. Leaves are thin and wide, and this provides them a large surface area for light to be absorbed, and a short diffusion distance for gas exchange. Secondly, the air spaces in the spongy mesophyll layer provide space for efficient gas exchange. Finally, the palisade cells located at the top of the leaf contains many chloroplasts, allowing a fast rate of photosynthesis. By being at the top, light can directly fall on them as well. Okay, let's look into the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. The obvious one is light. Light with higher intensity means more photons are emitted per second, resulting in a greater rate of photosynthesis. Don't confuse this with frequency, as it's different. Higher frequency of light causes a greater rate of photosynthesis, generally, but this depends on the amount and type of pigments contained within the chloroplast. Next is temperature. Again, no big surprise here. If it's too low or too high, enzymes that control photosynthesis either become inactive or become denatured, respectively. Next is carbon dioxide, where a higher concentration gives a higher rate. And finally, we have water. Too little water and then very little photosynthesis occurs, and too much results in waterlogged soil. Waterlogged soil contains less oxygen as well, so less aerobic respiration occurs, meaning there is less ATP available for active transport of ions into the plants. So here's a recap of what we covered in this tutorial today. Use them as questions to consolidate your knowledge. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.